morning, friends, and welcome to our Sunday morning meeting. This lodge, as well as many others all over the world, meet on Sundays for the dissemination of the true philosophy that was brought out to the Western world at the end of the 19th century. This effort is still going on strongly today. It is necessary for humanity to understand what the aim is for them. Why are we here? What is the highest goal achievable for each human being? How is this achieved through karma and reincarnation? And that is the missing chord in Christianity and many of the other dogmatic religions of the world today. The philosophy brought to the world is the wisdom of the ages. It is based on the accumulation of this knowledge for thousands and thousands of years, and its verification for the masters of wisdom who are always there to help when we earn it. The sole bond between the associates of the lodges is based on similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching. Even though each lodge is independent of all the others, nevertheless, it is all united in that purpose of similarity and teaching. All of the Theosophists are engaged in helping humanity move forward. The mind of the race, it has been opened to new possibilities through this effort of the 19th century. The human beings occupying Earth today are very intelligent. What we need to add to that is the inner cultivation, which is our spirituality. Hand in hand then, spirituality shows the way as to what needs to be done. Today's reading comes from the Upanishads and the Tao Te Ching. Waking and dream. What is the soul? It is consciousness in the life powers. It is the light within the heart. This spirit of man wanders through both worlds, yet remains unchanged. He seems only to be wrapped in imaginings. He seems only to revel in delights. And there are these verses. Leaving the bodily world through the door of dream, the sleepless spirit views the sleeping powers, then clothed in radiance, returns to his own home, the gold-gleaming genius, swan of everlasting. Guarding the nest beneath through the life breath, the spirit of man rises immortal above the nest. He soars immortal according to his desire, the gold-gleaming genius, swan of everlasting. Soaring upward and downward in dreamland, the god makes manifold forms, now laughing and rejoicing with fair beauties, now beholding terrible things. They see his pleasure ground, but him sees no one. Thus goes the saying, let none awake him that sleeps, for he is hard to heal, if the soul returns not to him. They also say that dream is a province of waking, for whatever he sees while awake, the same he sees in dreams. Thus the spirit of man becomes his own light. And when he has taken his ease in the resting place of dream, moving to and fro, and beholding good and evil, the spirit of man returns again by the same path, hurrying back to his former dwelling place in the world of waking. But whatever the spirit of man may behold there, returns not after him, for the spirit of man is free, and not adheres to the spirit. This is so in truth, Yajnavalya. I give 1,000 cattle to the teacher, but tell me the higher wisdom that makes for liberation. And now today's talk, dreams.
Morning once again, friends. Welcome. Before we go directly into the presentation for today, I would like to just make mention briefly that this week just passed, the 17th, was the anniversary to which the first speaker alluded to, the presentation, the bringing forth of Theosophy into the world, into the Western world. And on that date, I have quotations by Robert Crosby here, who founded the United Lodge of Theosophists in 1909, in which we are a part of worldwide, and then Mr. Judge, who started with HPB the movement in general. So just a quick mention of that for those of you who weren't here, to just to strengthen that thought that was presented, that the movement is here in the world today, and has been in the world from the beginning of the world, really. So this is what comes from Mr. Judge, basically. He says, our destiny is to continue the wide work of the past in affecting literature and thought throughout the world, while our ranks see many changing quantities, but always holding to those who remain true to the program and refuse to become dogmatic or to give up common sense in theosophy. Thus we wait for the new messenger, striving to keep the organization alive, that he may use it and have great opportunity. HPB outlines what she says. Think how much one to whom such opportunity is given could accomplish. And that comes from Mr. Judge here and Mr. Crosby. Once again, he says, 17, we have but to keep continually in mind and heart the original lines laid down by HPB and William Q. Judge, namely unity first as a focus for spiritual growth and mutual strength. Study that a knowledge of the movement, its purpose, its teachers, and its message may be had. Work upon ourselves in the light of that study, and for others first, last, and all the time. So that was just a forward into, or a preface into today's talk. Roll, roll your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. We've heard that, okay? And there's also a quote by Mr. Judge that Theosophy, if you take this from the bookmark where HPB says here, Theosophy in its abstract meaning is divine wisdom, or the aggregate of the knowledge and wisdom of that underlie the universe, okay? Now how does that relate to what I was just mentioning, that roll your boat down? Because Mr. Judge also says Theosophy is broad enough, whereas the deepest minds can fulfill whatever they require, the abstractness or whatever they need for their intellect. But yet, at its shore, it's shallow enough where it won't what's the term he uses? It won't overwhelm that of a child, okay? And speaking of children, we have here, because Theosophy considers all beings, young and old, as old souls returning, but we happen to call souls in little bodies children. So, because for the children who ask why, we have a chapter called Dreams. And basically here is a conversation between a young, two kids, a brother and sister, with their auntie, okay? And the aunt and the daughter is telling the child is telling the auntie about her dream that she had with her mother, about her mother. And not to get into the dream and all that because we have so much to cover here, but upon waking, the little girl is talking to her mother, and she says that basically her mother was there and she felt her mom's and they were holding hands and stuff like that. And then her auntie says to her, that was a real dream, Aunt Eleanor said. Your feeling when you woke was the memory of what happened while you were away in that far land of deep sleep. You surely were with your mother there. On coming back through the hallway of the brain, you saw such pictures of radiant beauty, etc., etc. And then near the end of that particular chapter on dreams, Dorothy says to her auntie, Auntie, said Dorothy, some of the girls at school have dream books that they say tell the meanings of dreams. Do they? Auntie responds, no, dear, I'm sure they don't. Every dreamer dreams differently, and only the dreamer can get the meaning of what he dreams. So there again is an application of trying to explain to kids, youngins, this philosophy that is so recondite, abstruse, for the greatest minds to be dealt with, but yet at the same time, for young kids, that you may explain the meaning of the other states of consciousness. Now, Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Yes, he had a dream. And then you have here the dream of Ravan. Okay? Now, in this, it states here that this dream, it says that this book here, the dream of Ravan, is more than a Ramayana tale. The Ramayana is one of the major works, philosophical works of India. Okay? It says it is more than a philosophical exposition of the gunas, the qualities. But the point relating to that and what I just spoke about Martin Luther King, he has a dream, a vision. And turning to the transactions in Madame Blavatsky's lodge here that occurred, there's a section of dream upon which we'll get into later. It states that the question is, what is a dream? Now, to understand not just what Sigmund Freud and Western intelligentsia have presented to the world about physiological reactions in the brain, but much deeper if you go to the Eastern wisdom, the ancient wisdom to which that was alluded to initially. But it states that the nature and function of real dreams cannot be understood unless we admit the existence of an immortal ego in man, independent of the physical body, for the subject becomes quite unintelligible if you just stay, if you don't go to the inner planes to understand that there is within us another person, or the real person, pretty much, who, in fact, at sleep, they state that the body, or is just the animated form of clay, whose powers of independent thinking are just paralyzed. Okay, so that's where we need to go inwardly to discover more and more about what we're talking about in terms of what we call dreams. Well, before we go further, just another aside. In pop culture, we have how this word dream is being used throughout the world. We have a song called Dream Lover. There's a play called Dream Girls. People tell one another sweet dreams or pleasant dreams. So what is it about these dreams? What do they have these kind of connotations? Sweet dreams, pleasant dreams, visions. Martin King and his vision, I have a dream. So we see that, first of all, it's some sort of, or not some sort of, but it is a vision. And you can have visions, day visions or night visions. In daydreaming, they associate what is it that a person is doing when they are daydreaming. They are entranced some kind of way into a focused state where they perceive, some may call it a premonition, some may call it clairvoyance, but they are acquiring or focused on some sort of activity that to them could be real. It's more than an illusion. You said delusion, mirage, all these terms that you associate with seeing, but this vision has a deeper connotation, brings forth a deeper meaning to its presence. Like Pharaoh in the Bible, Pharaoh's dream was so complex that only, I think, Joseph came and interpreted his dream. All right? So, without going further, we have to understand that there is, what I want to do now, because this subject is so complex, I want to go directly to what Theosophy is saying and not add. I'm not a Theosophist, I'm a student of Theosophy, and therefore we have to go to the exact words that were brought forth by Theosophists. And these are words coming from Madam Blavatsky in a question and answer session. So I have, just to expand the range, you have a book.
Oh, the transaction?
Yeah, this transaction.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But now, what was that? Okay. Now, because dreams are so broad, I mean, the subject of dreams are so broad, what the attempt to do here is just to put out certain aspects of the dream world so that we go further in the question session about this, okay, about dreams. Now, I have the little asterisks beside, or little marks beside certain questions that could possibly come to mind regarding dreams. So there's some reading here, but I think it would give us an idea further of what we're intending to cover. On that first page, what I must apologize for, I didn't number that first page. So that in the first corner, Nadine or Tunja, what is the question asked up here on top? So I can find it in the book.
What is the condition of the linga sarira?
Okay, the linga sarira is basically the astral body form. Okay.
Well, for our newcomers, perhaps you might want to mention the use of the body.
Yes. I think this will come out too. Yeah. Let me find that. Find that page.
Well, if he's finding it, would you please repeat it on the mic? Tunja.
Yes.
Please ask the question again.
The question is, what is the condition of the linga sarira or plastic body during dreams?
All right. Now,
it's page 69,
I got it. Yeah, it's 76.
Okay.
Okay, but you don't mind I have it. Anyway, the question is, what is the condition of the linga sarira or plastic body during dreams? The plastic body that we refer to in Theosophy is basically what's called the astral body. Now, the human being has 7 principles basically thrown out there. You have the body itself, then there is the astral body. I'm just giving out 7. There's a particular order. There's the desire body, there's the vitality, there's your mental plane, several planes, then your intuition, then there's the spirit itself, what we call Atma, okay? It's like the higher 3, that's a triangle, if you think of it, and then you have the square, okay? At the death of the body, or you say basically when the body is asleep, because there is a correlation between death and sleep, all right? The lower 4 are what's considered paralyzed, okay? And then the higher 3 become active, right? And this astral body that is referred to here as a plastic body, that's the question. So, Tunja, could you start off and ask the question and then read the answer, please?
Of course.
The first the 2 questions there.
What is the condition of the linga sarira or
Tunja,
plastic?
would you please use the microphone? Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. What is the condition of the linga sarira or plastic body during dreams? The condition of the plastic form is to sleep with its body, unless projected by some powerful desire generated in the higher manas. In dreams, it plays no active part, but on the contrary, is entirely passive, being the involuntarily half-sleepy witness of the experiences through which the higher principles are passing. Under what circumstances is this wraith seen? Sometimes, in cases of illness or very strong passion on the part of the person seen or the person who sees, the possibility is mutual. A sick person, especially just before death, is very likely to see in dream or vision those whom he loves and is continually thinking of. And so also is a person awake, but intensely thinking of a person who's asleep at the time.
Okay. Nadine, could you take the next one here and use the mic, please?
Can a magician summon such a dreaming entity and have intercourse with it? In black magic, it is no rare thing to evoke the spirit of a sleeping person. The sorcerer may then learn from the apparition any secret he chooses, and the sleeper be quite ignorant of what is occurring. Under such circumstances, that which appears is the Mayavi Rupa, but there is always a danger that the memory of the living man will preserve the recollections of the evocation and remember it as a vivid dream. If it is not, however, at a great distance, the double or linga sarira may be evoked, but this can neither speak nor give information, and there is always the possibility of the sleeper being killed through this forced separation. Many sudden deaths in sleep have thus occurred, and the world been no wiser.
All right. Kim, could you take the mic, please, and read that next section? Just trying to, again, give an expanse of how broad this subject is.
Can there be any connection between a dreamer and an entity in Kama Loka? The dreamer of an entity in Kama Loka would probably bring upon himself a nightmare, would run the risk of becoming possessed by the spooks so attracted. If he happened to be a medium or one who had made himself so passive during his wakening hours that even his higher self is now unable to protect him. This is why the mediumistic state of passivity is so dangerous, and in time renders the higher self entirely helpless to aid and even warn the sleeping or entranced person. Passivity paralyzes the connection between the lower and the higher principles. It is very rare to find instances of mediums who, while remaining passive at will for the purpose of communicating with some higher intelligence, some extraneous spirit, not disembodied, will yet perceive or preserve suddenly their personal will so as not to break off the connection with the higher self.
Right. Regina, could you take the next question, please? And we'll go over these terms that you may not be familiar with. David Kahn, Kamaluka.
Okay. Can a dreamer be in rapport with an entity in Devachan? The only possible means of communicating with Devachanese.
Let's say heaven in the Christian sense is
Heaven?
Yeah.
Okay, the only possible means of communicating with heaven is during sleep, by dream or vision, or in trance state. No heaven can descend into our plane. It is for us, or rather our inner self, to ascend to his.
All right. Now that question, the next one, what is the state of mind of a drunkard during sleep? I didn't. The answer is basically here. It is no real sleep but a heavy stupor. That's not on your page here because the next page is what? 70? 70? All right. So what does it start? Oh, what is it?
There are people who have never dreamed.
Yeah, John. Let me see. Let me see that. Can you read one more?
Okay.
Okay.
Are there people who have never dreamed? There is no such man in the world, so far as I am aware. All dream, more or less, only with most. Dreams vanish suddenly upon waking. This depends on the more or less receptive condition of the brain ganglia. Unspiritual men and those who do not exercise their imaginative faculties or those whom manual labor has exhausted, so that the ganglia do not act even mechanically during rest, dream rarely, if ever, with any coherence.
Thank you. John, could you take the next, please?
What is the difference between the dreams of men and those of beasts?
Put the microphone close to your mouth.
The dream state is common not only to all men, but also to all animals, of course, from the highest mammalia to the smallest birds and even insects. Even every being endowed with a physical brain or organs approximating thereto must dream. Every animal, large or small, has more or less physical senses. And though these senses are dulled during sleep, memory will still, so to say, act mechanically, reproducing past sensations. That dogs and horses and cattle dream, we all know. And so also do canaries, but such dreams are, I think, merely physiological. Like the last embers of a dying fire, with its spasmodic flare and occasional flames, so acts the brain in falling asleep. Dreams are not, as Dryden says, interludes which fancy makes, for such can only refer to physiological dreams provoked by indigestion or some idea or event which has impressed itself upon the active brain during waking hours.
Okay, that's good right here. And then on the other, do you have a question on the other side, the bottom? But what is a dream?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's not, I'll just read some of that and just to give it out some more. But what is a dream? That depends on the meaning of the term. You may dream, or as we say, sleep visions, awake or sleep. If the astral light is collected in a cup or metal vessel by willpower, and the eye is fixed on some point in it with a strong will to see, that's not on the page, will to see, a waking vision or dream is a result, okay? So, Barbara, the last page we'll go to, could you, no, we have that in the very last page there. At the bottom, says, does it start on the page, what is the cause of nightmare? Mm-hmm. Okay, Barbara, could you start that, please?
What is the cause of nightmare, and how is it that the dreams of persons suffering from advanced consumption are often pleasant? The cause of the former is simply physiological. A nightmare arises from oppression and difficulty in breathing, and difficulty in breathing will always create such a feeling of oppression and produce a sensation of impending calamity. In the second case, dreams become pleasant because the consumptive grows daily, severed from his material body and more clairvoyant in proportion. As death approaches, the body wastes away and ceases to be an impediment or barrier between the brain of the physical man and his higher self.
Next question, please.
Is it a good thing to cultivate dreaming? It is by cultivating the power of what is called dreaming that clairvoyance is developed.
Okay, Herb, do you want to read, or that page 78?
Sure.
Okay. 78.
Yeah, I found it in the book
Okay.
because I have actually the book. So 78, you said?
Right, down the bottom. Are there, the last question, well, next to the last question, are there means of interpreting dreams?
Okay, I'm on 77 now. Are there means of interpreting dreams? For instance, the interpretations given in dream books. Answer, none. But the clairvoyant faculty and the clairvoyant faculty and the spiritual intuition of the interpreter. Every dreaming ego differs from every other, as our physical bodies do. If everything in the universe has 7 keys to its symbolism on the physical plane, How many keys may it not have on higher planes?
Okay. You can continue to take that first question, please.
Question.
That next question.
Is there any way in which dreams may be classified? Answer. We may roughly divide dreams also into 7 classes and subdivide these dreams in turn.
Okay. Nadine, would you read the first one? Wait a minute. Kim, give her.
1. Prophetic dreams. These are impressed on our memory by the higher self and are generally plain and clear, either a voice heard or the coming event foreseen.
Thanks. Jack, could you take the next one?
Yes. Allegorical dreams, or hazy glimpses of realities caught by the brain and distorted by our fancy. These are generally only half true.
All right. John, the next one, please. Number 3.
Dreams sent by
The mic,
adepts.
John. Put the mic.
Dreams sent by adepts, good or bad, by mesmerizers or by the thoughts of very powerful minds bent on making us do their will.
All right. Regina?
Retrospective dreams of events belonging to past incarnations.
Kim?
Warning dreams for others who are unable to be impressed themselves.
Barbara, number 6.
Confused dreams, the causes of which have been discussed above.
All right, number 7 I'll take. Dreams which are mere fancies and chaotic pictures owing to digestion, some mental trouble, or such like external cause. Now that we have just given open the field, I know there has to be, for those of you who are new to Theosophy, certain terms that have come up. We spoke of the astral world, now, and Akasha, and then, yeah, all those things. Now, there were certain, well, okay, you got to bring the book. Devachan, Kamaloka, they are states that upon the death of the body, the ego goes through. The negative part would be what we call, it's a realm between the physical and the higher, okay? Kamaloka is this plane. All of us is the astral world, okay? Where your thoughts, everything recorded, felt, done.
Kind of like purgatory for those who
okay,
maybe.
for those of you who are not familiar with those terms, we would call purgatory, hell, and heaven, these states, okay? But it's this huge field between the physical and the spiritual, this psychic plane.
But Kamaloka is not heaven, right?
No. To give you an idea, here I got something. It says, the psyche is the plane of desires, which run rapid, unchecked by any consideration of conscience or morality. It is a region of the astral light in which are stored the scenes of human iniquities, this little thing. If the dreaming entity is psychologically attuned to evil, it adds its quota of depravity to the astral records, okay? And in turn is vampirized by them. In other words, waking consciousness affects your thoughts, your deeds, and your actions, right? Are recorded on what's called the astral light, right? And that's right, gives back what you give to it. It's under law. So waking state affects sleeping state. And then when you first fall asleep, that's where you are. And then you go through various states. The next highest state, dreaming state, is like equivalent to Devachan, what we call Devachan, but what a Christian or somebody else would call heaven. That's where you assimilate your aspirations and things like that. But then the highest state, dreamlessness, that's where, as we say in Theosophy, you're at the banquet of the gods. That's where you're communing with your highest nature, the spirit, okay? And then as you go up, you come back the same way. But now, and there, what they stated, the dream is nothing but a picture of what you were doing out of the body. But you just catch glimpses of it because, again, of the blockage of the channels going up and down, right? Now, that's pretty much, in a nutshell, astral. Now, Kamaloka, plane of desire, David Kahn, the higher principles. I mean, it's the higher part of Akasha. Here it's called Akasha, Sanskrit term. Here, the lower plane next to Earth, it would be astral, pretty much, right? And whatever term that we, you familiar with psychic stuff like that. Is there any, are there any thoughts, questions, or anything that one has read that we can bring about? Come about?
Linga Sarara leaves the body?
Yes, that's or the place where it's what it says. We'll read what it says back to
it says here on
76.
On the front page over here on the right, it says, if it is not, however, at a great distance.
What page is that, John?
That's the top.
That's the one wasn't numbered.
Oh, okay.
The front page.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're talking about black magicians here that vampirize it.
Well, I'm getting too.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Hey, go ahead.
Let me finish the question. He never answered.
Mm-hmm.
If it is not,
Raise
however, at a great distance.
Yeah.
If it is not, however, at a great distance, the double or lingua serira may be evoked, but this can neither speak nor give information, and there is always a possibility of the sleeper being killed through this forced separation.
Okay, and your question becomes what now?
That it looks like the lingua serira is still with the physical body.
Yes, but then it says forced separation when you read at the end. In other words, when people say people die in their sleep.
Yeah.
Because sometimes by natural causes, but sometimes if the astral just wanders too far, or there's a forced separation and the person doesn't know how to get back. That's one cause of, they say, well, they died in their sleep. But this other thing about somebody evoking and messing with, to break that separation,
Okay.
that's one cause of it. Now, as I stated, somebody who is out there, as I understand it, this student understands it, when you fall asleep, right, the astral body wanders away from the body, but so far, right? But somebody who's trained to extract that body from the physical body, just like the seeds of a mango, you got to extract it. Now, if they're out there dabbling and not knowing what they're doing, that's another way that separation could occur, right? And then the black magician, that's another story. Too, John, could you segue into what I'm saying? You mentioned about the black magician?
Yeah, it's right here at the bottom. It's in the bottom here. It says, can a magician summon such a dreaming entity and have intercourse with it? Which is where John's comment came from. In black magic, it is no rare thing to evoke the spirit of a sleeping person. The sorcerer may then learn from the apparition any secret he chooses, and the sleeper be quite ignorant of what is occurring. Under such circumstances, that which appears is the Mayavi Rupa, but there is always a danger that the memory of the living man will preserve the recollections of the evocation and remember it as a vivid dream. If it is not, however, at a great distance, the double or lingua serira may be evoked. But this can neither speak nor give information. There is always the possibility of the sleeper being killed through this forced separation. Many such sudden deaths in the sleep have thus occurred, and the world been no wiser. But on the upper part of this page that you presented, it says here, the condition of the plastic form is to sleep with its body, unless projected by some powerful desire generated in the higher manas. In dreams, it plays no active part, but on the contrary, is entirely passive, being the involuntary, half-sleepy witness of the experiences through which the higher principles are passing. So it doesn't really participate, it's just an observer, right?
Wait a minute, Barbara had a question first, back to you. Oh, she had a comment?
Here.
The question is, in this, when you say,
What page?
sudden deaths or sleep have thus occurred in the world, they're no wiser. Would this also refer to infants? like sudden death
Syndrome.
syndrome and all of that. They haven't really.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't been around very long to have generated all of.
All this karma. Okay, we get
Yeah,
an
all
idea.
you know where
Yeah,
I'm sort of know where I'm going.
Also a previous incarnation.
Yeah.
Accumulated karma there.
Yeah.
Well, okay. When you say the previous incarnation, also because you keep saying they're old souls just coming back.
Right. Exactly.
And
so if they, okay, I get the gist of your question.
Mhm.
Now, if what we call an infant, keep in mind that it is a soul, right? Now, if and there's no innocence there at all. That's just our illusion of talking, like you say, the sun sets, or you know how we still call women guys. No, it's our language. Okay. Now, this soul has its karma as well, and just like if it has stayed back, or if it's turned to be stay back, you know, you got to repeat the grade. See, life is a school, and every time you hear, you're learning. Okay. So if you got to stay back, you didn't get the lesson, you got to repeat. So if this soul comes in and for whatever reason checks out again, we know it's under the broad definition of karma, okay? And if its baggage has come to the point where it's, now you can't come to school this time. So yeah, it's whatever the physiological reasons are that doctors give it or medical science give it, behind that, the spiritual is always a cause, and that death is the effect, you know? So that's just me responding to your question. Yes, Regina?
I've heard that when we travel, like astrally, when we leave our bodies, that we're still connected with a silver cord,
Mm-hmm.
a thin cord. Even if we say go to the moon, and it's still a connection, a silver cord
Right.
that connects us to our body.
Mhm.
So that would enable us to perhaps not get lost, or to be able to come back to our bodies. And if we're under the protection and shield of, say, a positive energy, that the negative energy isn't as strong and can't harm us if we desire to be under that protection.
Sure. Yeah. The comment, as we all understood, there is mention in the voice of the silence reference to the silver cord. You know, don't break away. That's the same way as like the lower self and the higher self, or the master. Yeah, you cannot. If you roam away from that, you do. There's the positive side, you know, the protection, all that you fall under, and astral traveling. That's a whole other subject. But Tunja, go ahead, respond.
But in most of us, we are not trained to separate our astral body. It's intermingled with the physical body. And to do the separation, it takes many, many lifetimes of effort to learn how to do it. It's not an easy matter to do it.
Yeah.
one question was that.
Wait a minute, hold up, Bob. Get the mic.
Yeah.
No, I know you said it's not that easy, but one of these questions doesn't say
Barbara, get the mic.
about the plastic body. Is involuntarily a half witness.
What page are you on?
First one.
Oh,
Okay.
it's a sleep.
Yeah.
Half asleep.
Right. So my thing isn't it sort of. It might, even though it's involuntarily, can it be aware?
Half aware.
Yeah, it's half sleep, you know, like you say, you know, like you half sleeping, and you know, in the physical, you're not totally asleep, but you're on your way. So that's, you know, through analogy there, you know, you're half aware. You are going to sleep, and there's a difference in going to sleep and falling asleep, you know, or like standing in love and falling in love, because the connotation of falling, you know, it's not you're uncontrolled. You know, there's something forcing you, or there's some force creating or causing this fall, you know, or fall to sleep. But if you consciously go to sleep, then you are in your cycle, you are knowing, you are consciously preparing to go, you know, especially one who's aware of these states and these conditions. Now, sleep, again, like reincarnation and karma, they're twins. Sleep and dreams, there's no way that you can separate the two, okay? And that's where sleep comes in, the quantity and the quality of sleep. All these things have effects, as you saw in the seven different dreams. You know, the waking affects the sleeping affects the waking. Now, how is this relative to, or how does this relate to everyday person? This is not abstract, you know. This is not it is metaphysics, but I'm speaking of if you were to just join someone in a conversation on a street level, you know, how would you relate all this? You know, how does this become important? You know, this notion, this world of dreaming. You know, sometimes theosophy is so abstract, you know, but yet still make it relevant to a person that you happen to be standing beside in the Safeway line. So, you know, he or she dreams as well, but what is it that's so different about the theosophical interpretation that you can connect the person with? Yeah, okay, I'll think about that. Yeah.
I have a comment to make.
Okay, I'll come back to that.
Because the first statement on the paper was that, on the reading, was that we are souls.
Mm-hmm.
So from the perspective of the soul, dream is reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're at the level of the higher consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and that dream is what you're doing at that level.
Mm-hmm.
But because the brain and the astral is not able to bring that knowledge back,
Mm-hmm.
it gets cut off.
Mm-hmm.
So the statement in the Theosophical writings is that we need to become awake
Mm-hmm.
on the higher levels of consciousness, meaning that you go from one level to the next and you learn how to function at the next higher level. And when you have learned that, then you go on to the next one and the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But where the soul is concerned, the real life of the soul is on those higher levels of consciousness.
Right.
And Mr. Judge, in one of his comments, says that if we could narrow our travel from these different levels of consciousness to the highest, just like a small tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
and then come back in the same tunnel, we would be able to retain of that knowledge more and more. I don't know what that means. I'm simply making the statement because it's very interesting. He says that all of our daily remedies are in those levels of consciousness, that if we could bring it, we would solve a lot of our problems that we're experiencing here on Earth.
So my thought again now, why is it that, you know, people always associate the dreams with being positive, like sweet dreams, pleasant dreams? Is it that it's not necessarily a wish, but those terms, the positive side of dreams? Nobody ever says have a good nightmare. Have a good dream. So dreams are associated with the positive side, you know, and I guess
Soul side.
the soul side, and then you have
And the other is indigestion cause.
Mhm.
Nightmare, because it's caused by indigestion. So you're not at the higher
on that seventh level. I mean that bottom level there. But all these, if you look at it, all of it is vision. You know, and like Patanjali somewhere, I was trying to locate the exact page, but he said the soul is assuredly vision itself. Or just like you can say perceivers. That's what we are. We can perceive. And the only difference between, let's say, you and I or someone else is the range of the perception, how far you can perceive, you know. So day visions, night visions, they're all daydreams. In other words, dreams, they're all visions. And Martin King, he had a vision. It's all in seeing and perceiving and perception, essentially that, you know. So without repeating, let me see, I don't have anything else. Oh, it is some mention that the Atlanteans. Are you familiar with that? The Atlanteans?
What's that?
Well, in in Theosophy, we say like this is the fifth race, you know, okay, the Aryan race, right? And all of humanity, you know, is in that. Just think Aryan, but there's some. We go deeper into it. But before the Aryan race, there were the Atlanteans, and we are those Atlanteans.
Yeah, the Atlanteans.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
And they go in stages. The early Atlanteans, on page 628 of the Secret Doctrine, HPB states that they did not dream. because their brains were not like the brain wasn't consolidated. You know, the ganglion, all those kinds, the nervous system, and all that. It's a development. It's just like how language, you know, they say the Lemurians before the Atlanteans, their language like bird-like sounds, and then over time, even we in acquiring these physical bodies had to learn how literally to walk. Or just like right now, we don't think about how we walk. We just get out and walk, right? The baby, the horse, the pony. As soon as he out the moms, he started running. But there was a time in growth and development. All these things that we take naturally had to be learned processes over millions of years. And so she's just alluding to that they weren't dreaming. In other words.
But weren't the Atlanteans so with technology more advanced than us, like the city of Atlantis?
Oh, it's the continent of Atlantis, not the city. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I think off the Atlantic coast somewhere.
It was basically, as I understand it, in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, about 10,000 years ago.
That's
or
when
so?
the last remnants of the continent went down.
Okay.
You know, just think of a huge continent that submerged something like, I think, 850,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And then the remnants, you know, when the continent breaks up, you have little floating islands, and that's what a lot of people say Plato was alluding to. You know, that little island that he spoke about. When he, I think it's Solon, his granddaddy, something like that, went to Egypt and in the conversation with the priests, they referenced that. They referenced Atlantis. So that's where, in terms of Greek history, the footnote could be, you could say footnote to Atlantis is, but they're coming back with it.
Yeah, did they travel like intergalactically, going to different planets and having spaceships and that kind of technology?
I'm told, and I've read, they did. They were advanced. Some of the stuff that, some of these mysteries that we call mysteries, if you go further into their history, you know, they are the aliens. They were just people here. You know, in other words, we said aliens and the mysteries of this and that. They, with their technology, they were very advanced, beyond us, for sure.
Okay.
John?
I think they may have been clairvoyant, which is the reason why they were, what you said about them before.
About them not dreaming? About them not dreaming?
Not dreaming, because they were actually...
More ethereal is what
the brain, if you go to
they were communing with the gods. They could see them somewhat. They didn't have the need to dream because they were out there with them.
Kim?
Why did they disappear?
Wait a minute. Kim first, then her. Go. Could you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. Kim, go ahead. Then
Okay.
her. You got a burn.
The Atlanteans, I had a question.
Well, okay. Well, Kim, I saw her hand first. Her. Just go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's just a quick question. What is the level of what is the dream state of a person that's in a vegetative state, or let's say the doctors would consider brain dead?
Well,
What was the dream state? They have to
Barbara,
dream at some
I think
level.
She read the question. Somebody read a question about consumption. That's somebody who has. What is that? Is that TB? A sick person, pretty much. Now I don't know. Just this student just responded, but the closest thing that today that came out was a person that is sickly, stuff like that. Closer. Let me see if I can find it again. It was read. It definitely came out.
Yeah, I remember
While
that.
we're
It was on the
looking for
first
that,
page.
Herb, can you go further with what you were talking about? Asking about, rather?
Not directly related to dream, perhaps, but since the subject of the Atlanteans came up, and they were so advanced, etc., why did they disappear?
Oh, the moral ground. There's the moral. Yeah, nature. You start abusing nature. You know, it's just like the story in Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible and stuff like that. And when we talk about nature is throwing back because of we're building too much, and so far it's like a give and take. It's like if the room gets too hot, you open the window. Okay, so there is in nature the balance principle needs to occur. So they were so abusive of sexual activity and all kinds of amoral activity and stuff like that. And as a result of the cycle so you got creation, preservation, and destruction. always occurring in nature. Change is always occurring. And that survival of the fittest does have a place, because those who fitted themselves for survival, who knew through their prevision, left early, or nature will send stuff to you, warning you to move away. Just like they say, these visions, I mean, these dreams that people have. So the elite of the bulk of those, they move further, coming eastward. That's where the Himalayas and Iran and all that is. And where's the majority of them? Some went to the Western Hemisphere, and some went eastward, and the continent went down. But to your point, why did they go down? Again, moral degradation, essentially, along with other stuff. Now, back to about.
I found your quote on page 78.
Yeah, right, 78. Back to yeah. Turn to 78, Kim, and you will read her. Let her read that.
Sure.
You got 78, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay, now read that question about the.
In the middle, in the second case, dreams become pleasant because the consumptive grows daily severed.
You read that?
No, I can't. I don't
Well,
see it. I'm on 78.
Okay, read that
Which
question. What is the cause of nightmare, and how is that the dream of person suffering from
Ah,
it?
got it.
Okay.
So read this one.
Yeah, read that again.
Okay.
What-
The
what-
question too?
Yeah, no. What is
Just
the
the
cause?
answer.
What is the cause of nightmare? What is this-
Okay. What is the cause of nightmare? How is it that the dreams of person suffering from advanced consumption are often pleasant? The cause of the former is simply psychological. Physiological. A nightmare arises from oppression and difficulty in breathing. And difficulty in breathing will always create such a feeling of oppression and produce a sensation of impending calamity. In the second case, dreams become pleasant because the consumption grows daily severed from his material body and more clairvoyant in proportion. As death approaches, the body wastes away and ceases to be an impediment or barrier between the brain of the physical man and his higher self.
So there's your answer there, the conditions of the dreams.
The answer that, yeah.
Today, we keep getting warnings about global warming and what we're doing to nature. So that's, if you will, a waking dream. So what's the difference between a waking dream and a sleeping dream? Is there a difference? Are we asleep now because we're not doing as much as it?
Well,
are we beginning to wake up?
Your question has many levels to respond, to be answered. Okay?
Choose one.
Okay, let's start with Buddha. After Buddha reached enlightenment, I don't know where immediately afterwards, someone was asking him, what are you, who are you? And he says, I'm awake. Okay, now to respond to your question, to your point, is that like you can say, yeah, we are asleep. We're asleep to our connection with nature and who we are. So yeah, in that sense, we can say we're the living dead because we're not connected with that spiritual side. So in that sense, yeah, we're not awake. I mean, we're asleep. Okay. There have been people who were able to interpret. Have their dreams interpreted rightly, but those who can do that, they are adepts, and those people who are on those levels. And if he or she ignored it, the propheticness of what was being presented, the consequences ensued. Like you take Nostradamus, okay, now they said he had visions. Again, this whole notion of seeing, the perception. We are perceivers, and depending upon your development, is to the degree that you are able to go further down the road than the range of someone else who stops maybe 10 miles versus 50 miles. And it's not just seeing, it's also hearing as well. Clairaudience, you can sit here and hear hundreds of miles away, as well as see hundreds of miles away. Well, anyway, that's our time. Thanks for coming, and we have refreshments here for those. Oh, next week's will be cycles. That's the talk, cycles. All right.